So I have my rim is cut level, my sides are smooth, I have a nice shoulder to my pot, and then this piece is called the flange, and that's the locking mechanism. So what we're making here is a cap lid. So a cap lid sits over the flange, and the flange is the locking mechanism so your lid doesn't fall off, it doesn't slide off. So what we need to make now is the basics for our cap lid. So I can start that in a lot of different ways. One really simple way, especially if your opening is a little smaller, one really simple way is to just take a pinch pot, or to make a pinch pot, and what we want with the cap lid, if you remember from the beginning, is we want it to sit right over the flange. So you want it to sit in this transition change right here. If it's too big, it's going to slide around, but if it sits right in there, it should lock in place and hold tight. So right now, I can just kind of rough this out. It doesn't have to be 100%. We can manipulate this more later when it firms up a little bit. And what I'm actually going to do is my lid is going to be flat on top. So I'm pretty close right there. So I'm going to start kind of flattening this. So what I'm going to do later is I'm going to trim this down a little bit. But if you needed to, you could also add clay up. You could build another coil pot this way. So I'm just getting this ready, getting it in its basic shape. So now when this firms up, I can manipulate this some more. So it's got that flatness that I'm looking for. There we go. And now I'm going to let that sit until it's ready to be cleaned up. Okay, now we have this lid and it's firmed up. So I made this a few days ago. It was just a pinch pot. And I let it sit for a while, wrapped up like this with the coil pot that we made. And I let this kind of harden and become the same consistency as the rest of this pot. So it's pretty firmed up, like I can squeeze it and it's not flexing on me. It's leather hard. And that's a really good state to work in. Now that the lid is leather hard, I can continue building on this. So for one of the pieces, one of the adjustments I'm going to make is it doesn't quite fit yet. So I might have to shave a little bit off of the pot itself, shave a little bit off the interior so that this comes down on here a little better. I might also have to build onto this. So I'm going to start by using my fettling knife and just kind of trimming on the inside, taking a little bit off, shaving it down so you can see where we're at. So I'm just going to shave a hair off here. So it's getting closer. Another adjustment I can make is on here. And I might use even this wooden rib tool to shave this back and just really take little bits off at a time, keeping it nice and clean. Let's do this. I like using this wooden rib tool because it's curved and the curve matches pretty well inside here. So it keeps it doesn't mess up what I've already done too much because the curves match pretty closely. So we're getting close. I've taken a little bit off the lid, a little bit off the lip or the flange. As I go around, I'm looking at the thickness here to make sure that it all looks even as I go around, so it doesn't look, when I finish doing this, like one side's thicker than the other, but it's all pretty consistent as I go. So all those little details matter. I can also use this metal rib here that's smooth, which might have a little bit more cutting action because it's a thinner material. Let's see if I clean this up now. My wet sponge. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. I am going to go around and add just a little coil to the rim of this to clean it up. So I'm going to position this right in the middle and use some wadding. Just a little bit of water here. So I'm just spinning this to smooth it out a little bit. I have water on my fingers. I'm just kind of evening out the outside. And then I can level this out. Now, because of I know the pot here, it curves out. I'm going to make a little curve on the inside that when this flips over, it'll match that just a little bit. So that with this soft clay that I added, I can push down on this and create a nice lip. And now I might wait a little bit to let this rim firm up, become leather hard, which could take just a couple hours really. And then I'll come back and I'll clean up the flip side of this, and then we're ready to decorate. So now I've waited a few days after I cleaned up the rim of my cap lid. And it's firmed up considerably. You can give it a little squeeze and it's not quite so soft anymore. It's now really nice and leather hard, so I can continue to clean it and finish up the lid. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to get this centered, and I'm going to use some clay to hold it in place. So I've got it centered, and now I'm going to push this down on either side at the same time. And now it's locked in place pretty well. I'm going to start cleaning up the lid by first kind of scraping this down a little bit. What I want to have for my design on here is I want to have a little bit of an arc on the lid. I want the top of the lid to come down a little bit, and there to be a little ridge under here. Because the lid's small, I want to be able to grab it from the edges, and I want that ridge to be something that my fingers can kind of wrap around and hold on to as I lift the lid on and off. So I'm going to start by kind of scraping this. I'm going to scrape it so I can smooth it easier, but also because I want to add clay onto here to make that ridge. Now that I've got this scraped down and it's smoothed out on its levels, so it's all even, now I can start adding clay. So before I add clay, I'm just going to add a couple drips of water. In the middle, I want my lid to come down at an angle, so I'm just going to add a little bit of a clay ball to the top that'll help me keep the middle pointed and help this to kind of transition down as I go. So I'm adding just a little bit of clay here, and now I can add a coil to the outside for my ridge. So when I do this, when I add this coil, it's going to be the same technique as everything else. Because the clays are of a different consistency, this I let firm up to leather hard, and this is soft clay. I am scoring everything, and I am adding water to the joint. Again, the water helps, at this point, the water helps to break down the joint a little bit, so that when I add the clay, it helps them to bond a little bit better. So like all my other coils, I'm getting the clay attached. I'm going to go back and blend the seams, and then I can thin it out. So now how I'm going to start attacking this is I'm going to get it kind of wet, and using the circular motion of the banding wheel, I can start to really smooth this out because it's wet clay that I added on here. What I might do actually underneath here, because I don't like how rough this is I'm going to take another coil, real thin coil, and I'm going to attach that underneath here in the same way that we've been doing all these coils. So it's scored. There's still water from that top coil that I attached. This is a really thin coil because I don't want to do too much and make this too thick. But I just want enough clay, I want to attach enough clay on there, soft clay, that I can manipulate it a little bit easier as I clean that up. So I attach the coil, I'm going around and blending it in, and then we can do a really good job cleaning it up. Cleaning up this joint. So now I'm just adding water, and now I can use my fingers to kind of clean the seam up. It's looking better already. Again, this is handmade pottery, so it's not going to be factory perfect, but it's not really what we're looking for anyways. One other piece that I want on here is just a little point on the top. So this is a really basic jar, and you can take this idea of how to make a coil pot and how to make this cap lid jar to a whole another level, lots of different levels, and I hope you do. But this has just been the very basics. So I need to clean this up a little bit more, but that gives you the basic idea. So I'm going to keep working on my lid. Got a little bit to clean up here, but this has been the basic mechanics on how to build a coil pot with a cap lid. Again, you can do lots of different things with this process, and I hope you take it to further and bigger lengths, and just have fun with the process.